Welcome to my YouTube channel where we'll be discussing all things life and lifestyle, fashion, faith, travel and self-care, and media. Come with me on this journey. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video and share with your friends. It promises to be an insightful video. So in my previous video, I ended by asking a question which I didn't answer. Someone asked me when and how did I know it was time to leave the bank? So for those who don't know, I used to be a banker. I'm now a corporate MC. I do this professionally now. I'm a TV presenter and so on and so forth. Anyway, so I had worked in the bank for 6 years and I'd also started to hone my skills. I had saved for the rainy days. Interestingly, what most people don't know is that I didn't leave the bank to do this full time. I left the bank to get my master's degree. But I'd done, banking and MCing for a bit. I was doing both I was doing my MCing on the side. Sorry, I was a full-time banker and a part-time MC. And I got the title banker with a mic and I thought it was cute. So I used to host on weekends and I used to host during my holidays when I didn't travel. And after 6 years in the bank, the Holy Spirit said to me, Mojibade, carry your load. Okay, not like that, but I just wanted a different adventure. I wanted something else. And I also knew it was time to get my master's degree. I was very passionate about corporate communications, helping brands to tell their stories in different ways. I was very passionate about how, a brand is perceived. So I was passionate about brand perception, brand image, and telling of a brand story. So I applied to get a master's degree in marketing communications, which encompassed everything: corporate communications, brand marketing, everything, integrated marketing, everything. Then I went to school. But before I went to school, of course, there was a lot of conflict in my mind. I was like, am I sure? Is this time? People even ask me, you're always celebrated here at in the bank. I just almost let it out. But yeah, you guys know I worked at Access Bank for 6 years. Okay. So what if I save? People were like, oh, you're celebrated here at Access Bank. Why are you going? But I, first of all, had prayed. And before I dropped my resignation letter, I had thought about it. I had prayed. And I had peace. There was this peace that I couldn't describe. Even though, of course, I was nervous. I was scared because I'd been there for 6 years. It was sort of my comfort zone. I had gone through different departments. I knew the who's and the who not. Everybody, I had lots of friends in the bank. I had made good connections. I had mentors. I had different people who were rooting for me and looking out for me, in the bank. And it was tough. It was a tough decision. I had to drop all of that, drop my monthly salaries, drop everything I was used to for an uncertain world. So I left certainty. Technically, I had my job, I had my monthly salaries to go to school. But before then, of course, I didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm leaving for school. I had been saving from my first year in the bank. I was very deliberate about saving. I wasn't even sure whether I was master's or anything, but I knew that I just wanted to have enough savings. I had been saving. Of course, I was hosting events and I had started to build my network, So when I go for these red carpet events, it's not just to host and, interview people. I will make sure I made a new friend, made a new connection. I was in everybody's faces. So I had the financial resources, I had the human resources when I was leaving, such that I kind of had a soft landing. I would say I had a soft landing. So money was not an issue. So I'm like, okay, even if I didn't work for 2 years, did I have enough to sustain me? And yes, by God's grace, I did. I had money, I had people. I'd also worked on honing my skills. Like I said, I didn't leave banking to actually go MC full time. I still thought to myself that I was going to be, doing this on the side whilst being a corporate communications manager at some multinational. That was the dream I had. So I finished school. I applied to a lot of places. I did my graduate internship at at a media house, because you have to do that before you graduate. I did that at a media house and it was fun, doing a lot of press releases, helping brands to tell their stories and just do all that branding thing for different brands that I worked on. And it was fun, right? I applied to several places, so many companies, but God said, my darling girl, that's not what I want you to do right now. This is what I want you to do. And then let me tell you, I said I was going to be vulnerable. Every time I applied to work. You know, every time I applied to a company, I would do all the interviews, go through all the stages, and then they would just say, or they'll just ghost me. Actually, they were not even coming back with feedback. They will even tell me, oh, this is the best person we have had for this role. You know, we'll just work on your offer. And that's like the last you will hear from them. And whilst I'm feeling that disappointment, the next day or 2 days after, I'm not joking, I would get a call to host an event, and all that disappointment that I felt or that I was feeling would immediately disappear, trust me. And so there was this thing that would always leap for joy. I just always felt like a baby or like a kid in a candy store. So that disappointment, I felt like these guys ghosted me, they didn't come back. I can count 6-7 companies off the top of my head that I applied to, that I did all the case studies, presentation, interview, and they would just ghost. And every other time, I'm not joking, every time. So I started to say, God, I see that I can hear you clearly. You know, I was seeing the signs, and I obviously just prayed, and everything started to work out for my good. So that's how I became, you know, full-time the Lady MC. But of course, then I set up my company eventually. But that's the story of becoming full-time Lady MC, when I thought I was going to still be doing it on the side whilst running for a multinational or for, you know, just some nice company here in Nigeria or anywhere outside the country. So that's that story. I knew it was time to leave the bank because I had prayed, I had saved, I had built my network outside, and I just said to myself, God, it was time to take that leap of faith, because it was indeed a leap of faith. I left the bank just a few months before COVID started, so I started to feel like, oh my goodness, who sent me? But trust me, nothing happened that was out of place. I look back now and I have zero regrets, like not one single regret that I left the bank when I did. I'm very thankful to the bank because, of course, like I said in my previous video, they gave me that platform to grow and to bloom. So thank you very much for that. I have another question here that says, have you had to deal with a difficult co-host, uncooperative, wants to throw you under the bus? If yes, how did you handle it? I've had to deal with this on different occasions. I remember I went to a different state, right, for an event, and I had a male co-host who was from that state. So when I got in, we were supposed to do a dry run the day before. He didn't show up. He said he was not feeling well or some funny thing. I sent him a message on WhatsApp, just being the friendly me, just checking on him. He didn't respond. We got to the event the day, and I just needed us to align, because again, when you're not aligned with your co-host, it shows on stage. The people, everyone in the audience can see what's happening on stage. Both of you, you know, you're like center focus. Everyone sees what's happening. So he didn't, and then asked him, oh, can we do a dry run? He was like, oh, I don't do rehearsals. I was like, sorry, oh. You know, I thought it was still a joke. You know, I was like, okay, so a few things changed on the agenda yesterday. This is now happening here. Was like, who changed the agenda? I was like, this guy actually means me. So I was still quiet. I was like, okay, what's happening here? He was damn right unfriendly, unpleasant, and very hostile. So after a while, I said to him, can we just run through so that we can align on the intro? Because again, your intro is very important. How both of you start is very powerful. It sets the tone for the rest of the event and how you will be perceived and judged. Next thing he says, oh, because they brought this young girl from Lagos to come. At that point, I was like, wow. I just got up, carried the agenda, carried my tab, and went to talk to the organizer and the convener it was a very big conference. I was going to have a lot of prominent Nigerians there. And I said, you know, this person is being very uncooperative with me. I can't work with him because, you know, I don't want us to get up stage and there's an issue. It will be, I mean, my brand was at stake. This was my first time in that state, and I didn't want anything that would cause a stain on my brand. And then they spoke to him. Because he's way older than I am, and so he was looking at me as one. Again, I don't look my age, I look way younger, and I think that's a good thing. You know, so he just looked at me, was like, oh, who's this? I think he said, who's this 20-something-year-old girl they brought? And at the time I was even 20-something, but you know, it was very disrespectful. But eventually I had to be very diplomatic, even when he came to apologize to me and he was being very, you know, sarcastic and just doing all sorts. I still just tried to, for the greater good. The greater good was that we had a great event. It was not about me, it was not about him, it was not about both of us. It was about the event, the organizers, and how they had to have a successful event, whether or not both of us aligned or not. That's not their business, and that's not the business of those that were in the audience. We had to, you know, put up a good show. Eventually it went well and we became friends. I've also had, this is a very sensitive topic because I'm team women supporting women, but I've worked with a woman before who was terrible. She basically almost pushed me off stage because she felt like I was doing too much. Now, the too much for her was that I had done my research. Now, at the event, it was a government event, and she was more about, do I share the story fully? If she watches this video, I'm so sorry. But she was more about, protocol, I'm recognizing this person, and I'm like, that's fine. I will do the intellectual bit of it, and I'm not saying that doing protocol is not intellectual. I mean, there's a list you would do. You would recognize the governor, the deputy governor, the SA to this, permanent secretary here, and she was all about that. And when I started to talk about the event and the core of the event and the technicalities of it, she was very upset. I had penned down some, key points, and right on stage, let me tell you what she did. She actually used her protocol sheet to cover what I was looking at. Thankfully, I wrote everything on the sheet, so it wasn't like it was new to me. I just smiled, pushed her sheet away, and continued speaking. I felt like, and people in the audience could see that. So I've definitely had to deal with so many weird people. I remember so many, and I'm just laughing. But what I always look at is the greater good. And what's the greater good? The success of the event. It's not about me. It's not about my ego or anyone's ego. It's about managing ourselves and differences to be able to achieve the common goal and the objectives of the event. Someone is asking me, why don't you stop? What moves you every morning when you're tired and unmotivated? I get tired, I get unmotivated, I get uninterested generally. But I realize that I have my showstoppers who are looking up to me, who want to learn from me, whose lives and visions and dreams are tied to mine. And so I can't give up. Yes, I get tired and I do take, some steps back. Some days I go offline and people like my DM say, are you okay? We missed you, come back. But I just sometimes take time to recalibrate, to just refill myself so that I can have, a tanker that goes to deliver fuel and does not refuel, is empty. So I need to refuel myself just so that I can give, to you guys, and also just be there for myself. So I do get tired, but when I wake up, I remember that there are people whose visions and dreams are tied to mine, and there's a quote, you guys know it, I post it all the time, that as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And I don't want to be the reason why somebody is not, when I get to the gates and God says, this person's, why did you not show up on this day? I will not say because, I let someone else down because I just wanted to sleep or because I was not in the mood. Yes, there's some days where I'm generally not in the mood, so I won't rule that out. But I still show up, when I've taken a deep breath, when I've prayed and I've listened to, uplifting music, I do my worship, and I'm able to come back stronger, because you definitely need to show up in this world that we live in. So I always show up and show out when I've refilled myself. There's someone here who's asking me, I think this question came up before. I'm not sure that I answered it in the first episode. I'm so sorry. So I'm coming back to it. How do you handle unexpected situations or technical glitches during an event to keep the show running smoothly? I don't think I answered it. And what are some personal challenges you face as a compere? How did you overcome them? Can you provide examples and creative and unique ways to engage certain audiences during an event? So I'll take it from the last one. Creative and unique ways to engage certain audiences during an event. So they're different, exactly. I like that you said certain audiences. So there's some events that they don't want entertainment or create. Just get to the point and do what they've paid you to do. There's some events that, of course, they want a little bit of, light entertainment here and there. I'm not a comedian, and I say it all the time. I remember there was a wedding I was supposed to host, and we went for vendors meeting. And okay, let me pause on that story. The third one, so the question after that says, what are some personal challenges you face as a compere, and how did you overcome them? And how do you handle unexpected situations or technical glitches during an event? So creative ways to engage audiences. I always say, when she asked me, she was like, so she even looked at me in a condescending way. So one of the challenges I face is that is having a strong sense of self-worth and having a strong self-esteem. Why was that sound like a tongue twister? Having a strong sense of self-worth and having a strong self-esteem. Because if you're not strong, especially as female, they will make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. They'll make you feel like you don't even know what you're saying, right? I remember going to that vendors meeting. It was my friend's wedding. I got there. The groom, I'm trying not to think that when I say they will not remember whose story this is. The groom's mother's friend, not the groom's mother, the groom's mother's friend looks at me. She's like, so we're all on by the table. It was a long table. They just put chairs around for everybody. She's like, where's the MC? With her nose up in her eyes. She was like, where's the MC? I was like, oh, I'm here. She was like, oh, you're the MC. That's number one. She has already tried to downgrade your esteem and confidence. But trust me now, shoulders high. I was like, yes, I'm the MC, ma'am. She was like, oh, okay. Can you handle a guest size of about 1,000 guests? I was like, yes, I can, ma'am. She was like, okay. So what plans do you have not to bore us? I was like, madam. I was like, oh, thank you very much, mother. I'm professional compare. I'm not a comedian. I don't crack jokes. She was like, oh, really? So how are we going to... The woman tried everything to make me feel little, but I told myself that I'm not little and I'm not going to be made to feel little. There's a quote that says, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. And so I went to that meeting. I mean, she tried everything. And I said, I'm not a comedian. And just like I already said, I'm this and that, but I can engage your audience. I've handled, this kind of guest size before and that and that and that. So you have to be very confident in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, people would try different things and throw different things at you, and then you start to, it will start to kill your confidence, and then you go upstairs and start to fumble and start to feel like, well, I'm not good enough, because those thoughts will even come even when you know that you're good enough, right? So you have to be very confident. Now, creative ways to engage the audience. You can, again, when you check the audience type, I mean, if you have a room full of governors and stuff, there are things that you should ordinarily not say and things that you should not do. There's some things that you should do, If you have a room or with students, I mean, you must just know your audience. I think that's the most important thing. KYA. But, in the banking sector, they say, know your customers. In hosting, you must know your audience and you must know what would appeal to them so that you don't go off point and say something that would be offensive to the people in the audience. I remember somebody told me about how he sent someone to go and represent him at an event, and I think it was an event for... I can't remember. So I think they were talking about wildlife or something. He cracked a joke about killing an animal, just something that was off. And that video, of course, put everybody off in the audience. So you have to be very careful. You must know your audience. You must know what will appeal to them. Test it in your head. Just try and play it in your head when you're going to say it. Don't just, better for you not to say it and have a good show than for you to say it and then ruin your show. So you can, of course, play on certain things that maybe the keynote speaker says. You can pick on different elements in the event to, I mean, if you're not able to crack a joke, don't do it, because it always backfires. But you can throw in witty comments that will not be offensive to people in the room. So just while you're trying to be creative, one of the key attributes of a professional compare is spontaneity. You have to be spontaneous. So this ties to the other question where this person is asking, how do you handle situations or technical glitches during an event to keep the show running smoothly? I've had several and numerous of those moments where sometimes maybe the screen would not, the projector will just stop working or something will happen, but the show has to go on. So you must be very spontaneous. You must have, a reservoir of things that you can do. I remember there was one time where at an event and we brought up the chairman of the board chairman to come and speak, and he just, I think he was having issues with his tab, so his speech was not coming up. And we had to, on the spot, think of creative ways so that it's not obvious. I mean, audience will eventually figure it out, but so that it's not obvious to the audience that, something wrong with the chairman. We had to find a way around it. So spontaneity is very, very key when you're engaging your audience. And of course, as you build, as you practice, as you go on to, as you attend more events, as you watch other people, you learn and build spontaneity. You can't function properly as an MC, and I'm saying this if you're not a spontaneous person, but you must be spontaneous intelligently. Don't just do spontaneity and let it be off key. You have to be, tailor it to the event, tailor it to the situation at hand, and don't crack any bad jokes that would offend anyone. So someone says, how do you do it? I've watched you host and it's so effortless. My darling, it looks effortless on stage, but behind the scenes, it's effortful. There's a lot that goes into it. I remember sharing a video on my page talking about how you must do the 3 hours once you get the brief. The 3 hours, you read, you research, and you rehearse. And I do that all the time. So it looks effortless on stage just because behind the scenes, I've already done my reading. Once I get my brief, I ask all the questions, I read, I research, and researching, you research on traditional media, new media, social media, everywhere. You're getting information from across different platforms on the subject matter, on the event, on the audience, on the client, on the event, on the objectives, on everything. So all that effort, a lot of effort goes into preparing for the event, and then where it now starts to look like it's effortless, it's not really effortless. So you've already done the work behind the scenes. Somebody says, how are you able to remain confident? Do you still get butterflies even though you have hosted so many events? Yes, I still get butterflies. I get nervous even till date. There's some events that you are getting to and you're feeling all the butterflies in your belly. But I'm Christian. Like I don't even joke with this. I always pray. That's why I go in early to my events. I walk around, I'm speaking in tongues, I'm taking charge of the atmosphere, and I'm able to build my confidence. Again, with practice and with rehearsals comes confidence. You're able to build your confidence because, again, you have read, you know the stuff you're supposed to be doing, you've gone through the agenda, you've asked all your questions. Confidence comes from preparation sometimes. There's a part where you can even prepare 100% and still be a little nervous, which is fine. However, you must ensure that you have prepared very well, you have done your reading, your researching, your rehearsals, and you can show up confidently. Now, even after doing all of that and you're still nervous, pray. If I don't pray, Satan will make fun of me. Okay, on a more serious note, I pray a lot. I remember there was an event I was supposed to do, and I was going to interview a super prominent figure, and I started to feel all the nerves. I was so scared. I just burst into tongues. Like I said, you know what? No matter what happens, I'm going to kill this show. And I killed the show. It was so good. And that really helped me. So like I said, with practice. So even when you don't have an event, go into your room, go in front of the mirror, write a script for yourself, do an agenda, and rehearse introducing Tony Elumelu, rehearse introducing, the president of the country or another country. Just have different things, have your, just script different things for yourself and rehearse those things, because so that when the time comes, you're prepared for it. And finally, I think I'm running out of time. I'm trying not to make this too long for you guys. Finally, I think the final question I will take is, how do you navigate MCing, being a Christian, and your business? And I say this all the time. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian across board. So whether I'm at work, I'm a Christian. Whether I'm in church, I'm still a Christian. Whether I'm at home, I'm a Christian. So there's no differentiation. There's something I saw that someone said, a Christian shoemaker does not go about demonstrating that he's Christian by putting little crosses on his shoes, but by being excellent. That's what it is. Just be excellent. Excellence honors God. My pastor always says that excellence honors God. So anywhere I'm at, I'm excellent and I'm a Christian. That's what it is. I remember I hosted an event one time. Goodness, I know I'm running out of time. My editor is looking at me like, sister, you got to wrap up. But and I got feedback, and person said to me, thank you so much for being excellent and for glorifying the name of God. Something like that. And that's what it is. Just be excellent in whatever you do. So I'm not like somebody said, I'm not a gospel actor. I'm an actor. So it's not that I'm a gospel actor. I'm just going to be excellent and live by the values that a Christian should live by. And that's what makes me Christian. Finally, and I said finally before. Finally, the last question I would take, because there are so many and I think I've tried to take a couple of them, is, how do I join platforms where I can put my skills to good use? And how do I convince people that I'm good enough? So I'm going to wrap up with this, right? And I would say that, first of all, you must put yourself out there. You must, there's no event that is too small. If you don't start from the little ones, again, the Bible says that if you don't show yourself faithful in the little ones, you can't get the bigger ones, right? You must show yourself faithful in the little ones. If it's your friend's bridal shower, host it and post it. I just rhymed, host it and post it. Okay, on a more serious note, your friend's bridal shower, baby dedication, volunteer. I can't tell you how many times I volunteered for free just because I needed to prove my worth. People are not going to trust you if they've not seen what you have done, right? So I had to prove that I am good enough, so hire me. So I would volunteer. I said, don't pay me, let me just do it. I remember I was telling a comedian, a very prominent comedian in Nigeria recently, how I think 5 or 6 years ago, I was in his DMs begging him to host his red carpet for one of his events at a hotel for free. I was like, please just give me the chance, just because I needed to put myself out there. So you have to look for opportunities for yourself. How they always make a joke and say, if you're not asked to sit on the table, bring your own chair. just create opportunities for yourself in your church, if you're a Christian, in your mosque. Just every chance you get to volunteer, to be a part of something that would make you show your skills. It's not always about the money. The money is great and it would come. I mean, you can say that, oh, Mojibade is saying that now she's making money. Yes, I'm making money, but it's not always about the money, especially when you're just starting out. Focus on creating value, and value will attract money. I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you that you should, put yourself out there, volunteer for different things, and then when the time comes, you will charge them in dollars and say, this is my charge, please talk to my assistant. But you must first just put yourself out there, volunteer, and be sure that your value is being seen. And that's, you don't need to say too much. People can see value, and people recognize value when they see it. I mean, only if they are blind, but I'm sure that there are no blind people around us that would not recognize value. Value speaks for itself. So just show up and show out. Thank you, showstoppers, for watching my video. I will see you in my next video with a lot of juicy gist coming your way. Please, before you go, subscribe. Click the subscribe button now, like, and share.